So warm good evening. Welcome each and every one of you. My name is Supreeta. I'm the AVP of Growth at ExtraEdge. And I would want to invite each one of you today to be a part of our, excited, fun-filled and very, very deep, insightful learning session for the next 45 minutes as me and Abhishek. Abhishek is with me. He's the co-founder and CEO at ExtraEdge. He has been leading technology, product engineering, big data analytics, and of course, marketing for a really, really long time. He comes with a packed experience of 15 years in banking industries, etc. So today we are going to talk about leveraging automation in application processes, how to increase your application processes, applicants with the help of a seamless design, be it SEO process or be it your communication process. Add to that, how do you go beyond borders today with this lockdown where students are really, really reluctant to travel? How do you reach out to that millennial, to that generation Z who is I was just reading about it, who is actually today one of the most sophisticated, educated and technology driven generation of all time. So would want to welcome everyone. And as we start off, would want to give you a brief introduction of what we do at ExtraEdge as well. So ExtraEdge has been a trusted partner, admissions and marketing automation partner for over 200 institutes across the globe today. We have over 300 counselors that use our product day in and day out and give us their valuable feedback that help us build tools that can revolutionize the entire admission process and help admission teams win day in and day out. So as we get started, a few opening remarks from you, Abhishek.
Yeah, Suprita, thank you for having me here. And so it's not 15 years, Suprita, it's just 10 years. So a bit young from that matter. Welcome everyone. I think great to have, and it's a right topic in this current season that we are in for universities and B schools, because application form is a very important milestone or in the whole journey of a student from an lead to an applicant. So as you rightly said, Suprita, we are dealing with a millennial or a Gen Z in a COVID year. So 2 or 3 things are happening that for the last admission cycle, the counselors and admission teams in different universities and B schools are really exhausted. And because it was a terrible year for across the world, but because of the dates not aligning with the cycle and things like that. Not only that, the students as well as their parents, so Gen Z and the millennial, they are also a bit concerned because there is a lot of uncertainty in terms of timeline, curriculum, dates, seats, and so on and so forth. So these things are also playing out today. And one of the very important things that I would want to highlight is that there are 3 categories of institutes and universities we are talking about today, Suprita. The first are the people who are already online. They have their application form live, the SEO is set and things like that. So they need to do a better job because of the COVID year that we are having in, right? So they need to better themselves. Second is who were partly offline and some way online. I think 2021, guess what? You have to be completely online. And the third set of people are universities, which because of their brand prowess and because of the attraction that they commanded, were completely offline in that way. So people used to come to the campus, pick a online form or pick a form, fill there itself. So the form was online, but the modus operandi was offline. I think they need to completely jump on the bandwagon of being completely online. So I think for all these 3 cohorts who are ready, who are just ready, and who are not ready, I think this is a very important aspect, and they need to be ready in this 2021 admission season as far as application forms are concerned.
Absolutely. Abhishek, I'm really glad that you stated that out clear for all of you. I think there's a lot of variety of background and teams that have joined us today, various different institutes that have come in. So I hope that sets a good context, and would want to quickly jump into a few things. So last webinar, I think many of you have attended that as well, where we spoke about setting up a world-class admissions process, an end-to-end process, where we discussed how some of the biggest universities in India do it today, right? So from that viewpoint, I think there is a huge gap between the kind of mindset, thought process that Generation Z holds today. And from my own, sales experiences that I've had, one of the most important factor for any marketing team today or any admission team is to look at their potential prospect persona. This has been spoken time and again in any marketing playbook, right, over the years. So talking about this particular persona that we are looking at, there is a huge amount of students that have, even between a pandemic, taken JEE, NEET exam. In fact, close to 15 lakh students took NEET. There's around over 8.5 lakh students, that appeared for JEE, and another 2.5 lakh for CAT. So what is that, that attracts these millennials the most? I remember around 15 years back when it was all paper. You had to physically go to a college, take the form, fill it, submit, give the fees to a different counter, so on and so forth, right? I think we have established very clearly today, Abhishek, that paper forms are absolutely dead. This is the year where it completely transforms the game for this tech savvy millennial, for this tech savvy Generation Z. What are your thoughts on this, Abhishek? How should teams approach this?
Thanks for the question. I think, Suprita, seeing is believing. So I'll tell you that for millennials, the discovery starts via search engine, or they search to you and go to some place to it, right? And they arrive at it. So if the objective, which is the sessions whole core idea, that how do we increase applicants and application forms, and how do we increase more conversions there, discoverability becomes very, very critical and important to it, right? So seeing is believing. Quickly give you a good example, Suprita, what I'm talking about, right? So uh, IHM, great brand of hotel management, right? So if I want to take admissions there, right, I hope you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, absolutely, Abhishek.
If I will take admission in that, the first thing that I will type is hotel management or IHM admissions. And guess what? I get a Google ad link right there itself. So you can see a Google ad link. Then I have links to the college. Then I have links to probably their website, then College Dunia, Shiksha, and so on and so forth, right? It's very important that, the journey from here, from a discovery for a millennial, Suprita, from here to an application form needs to be very, very smooth. And for that, I would really mention that a contact us form or a small form or a widget or a small form would not cut it, right? So one of the key things is that how smooth is the journey from a discovery search engine, or even probably a publisher, okay, finally to the application form of a particular institute, right? How smooth is the journey will determine, because the thing about millennials and Gen Z, Suprita, is that the attention span is very, very small, and they are in a mobile world, right? So are these factors contributing to that or not? So for example, if I click on it, right, I went to a website. So am I getting a very simple, seamless form, which will from here take me directly to an application or not, right? So, replacing those middlewares, small widgets or small forms to a widget of an application form, where straight away after filling that, a particular student goes to an application form and immediately starts his journey right away here itself. So this seamlessness, I would say, Suprita, is, in my humble opinion, one of the most important things for the millennial generation that we are talking about.
So you mentioned, Abhishek, something about a widget. I think you're a very, very technical person that I have known you to be, right? So when you tell a widget, what exactly does it do for a student, right? So I have a couple of statements that I can share with you, which most admission teams do tell me. So there's one process where a student has just inquired for an institute. Now he's not really looking to apply. He's not really looking to pay that fees, but then he just wants to know about a few things, right? At the same time, if he does take a decision after half an hour to apply, so does he have to land up filling another form altogether? Is he given all the stages very seamlessly to take him to that particular process? How does a widget help in this end-to-end automation?
I'm glad that you asked this question, Suprita. So all in the audience and for Suprita, let me simplify it. Suprita, widget is, or a widget to an application form is the proper door to enter the house, right? Think about it. The house is basically where you complete your application form, and your application form widget is the proper door with a key, which is the hands of the student. By the way, there are also windows for small, contact us form and things, but that's not the right door, right? So what happens is that when a student comes to the right door, he gets the right key. And I'll tell you what I mean by that, right? So let me again share my screen. So here, Suprita, in this case, if you see that uh, from discovery, the student comes to a page, and bear in mind, this page is owned by the university and their brand. It's very, very important, ladies and gentlemen, that this page needs to be owned by the brand, and so that the domain and the authority and the traffic goes to the university's domain and university's page. But this page is powered, Suprita, by a small, door, which gives them an entry towards their application form. And you need to make sure, or universities admission teams need to make sure, Suprita, that wherever is the search discoverability, they finally land to the right window and not to a contact us form or small forms where again they need to go and register. So from discovery, we bring them to registration and the right door and give them the key. And from here onwards, Suprita, we clearly, bring them into what I call as the place where they come to a dashboard, they are seeing, and their filling of the application journey starts right away. And by the way, if the students log off, Suprita, and he goes back to it, he will again have a registered email ID and a login details, because he has come to the right window or right door. And from here, he can again log in from his credentials and again log back into its application form. So this becomes ubiquitous, Suprita, in that way. That's what I'm talking about.
Excellent. So let me quickly want to add to that from what Abhishek has shared. So to all of you folks which belong to, a core marketing team, you would probably understand this workflow. Today, the Generation Z is online. They are digital. They are no longer in a physical space. So it is very, very important for you to have all the tools end to end integrated tightly to tell your admission officers what is the stages the students has reached, what is the responses when what he has given to you, because you're not physically there to see his emotions, right? When you tell him about the campus, when you show him the campus store. So how do we track that in the digital world? To give you a quick glimpse, I think I have an infographic around me. So think of it this way: the student opens an email, the counselor comes to know. He visits your website, he comes to know. He visits a chatbot, the counselor comes to know what was his activity out there. From there, probably you could redirect him to a application page where he need not have to do double sign-ons. He could, with the help of a widget, he could immediately start filling out the form. So this entire journey or the workflow can be automated with powerful communication and things like that. This is particularly what we will cover more in depth as we talk more about design, automation, communication, tracking, and analytics. Feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A section as I quickly showcase the next set of aspects to Abhishek. So here you spoke about widgets, you spoke about an application form, an online application form, you spoke about domain authority in between there, Abhishek. Now this is very, very inquisitive for me, because I have seen a lot of platforms out there which give a URL for the application form that can directly take it to their domain, right? Whereas it's very important for universities to retain that traffic onto their own websites, to their own domains, so that it adds to the SEO, it adds on top of your organic, and helps you reach out to more and more students every day. I think most marketeers would know how critical this is to your organic and SEO rankings, right? So if you could add a bit more on the process of automating the widget to the bot. How does the student discover a university? How does he get answers to his questions, Abhishek?
Absolutely, Suprita. So, again, seeing is believing, right? So, what happens is, if you look at the journey of a student starts with a search, right? And Suprita, this search takes them to a ad, right? This search can also take them. This search can also happen in a Facebook or an Instagram where they see an ad like this, and when they click on that ad, right, they go to a page. Okay, often than not, they go to a page where there is a lot of information about the brand, this and that. But the brands and marketers who are present in this call need to understand that when somebody clicks this link, he wants to fill the form. So the swiftness through which you can take him from a search, and he can go to any place. He can probably even go to publishers like Shiksha, College Dunia, that's okay. But then from there, he should directly come to a place where, as I said, he gets a door, and the door enables him to fill a form. And when he fills the form, he gets all the information. He directly comes, he receives a URL and things like that, and he starts to fill his application form, his education details, goes on to pay the fees and complete that fulfillment at any point in time. So, this is what I mean by, the flow. But the important bit, Suprita, in the flow is that while he's doing all these things, the discoverability from a Google or an Instagram or a AdWord to the domain of that particular institute, this in case one of our a very marquee customers, is that it needs to be happen on their own domain. It need not be vendor.xyz.com. It needs to be their own domain, which they have their own authority. And this widget makes it possible, Suprita, to do that for them. So widget is embedded here and it gives them a proper door from where they move on to the form, and then they complete the form, they upload their document, they enter their entrance examination details, they fill few of the things later on. So for example, Suprita, if people have not given their CAT, GMAT and DAT, right, they can come later and fill that form and they can complete the process to it. And not only that, Suprita, what I will mean that what domain authority means is that in the product, there is a complete bifurcation of the application form, like how many people fill the form, not fill the form, application form paid, and the whole journey is seamlessly seen at any given point in time, I would say. So to summarize, search discovery to a domain authority via the widget and taking them finally into a way where the whole workflow from a student sense is customized. He sees his journey at any point in time. He's very clear where he is in the form. So GDPI has not yet started. Fee details have not been captured, but he needs to go and pay the registration fee with a coupon code and stuff like that. So, this is what I mean by seamless flow of the journey, not only from a student side, but also from a admission teams where they have a clear visibility of what's happening right and wrong with the candidate, Suprita.
Excellent, folks. Before we move into a much more deeper understanding of GDPI and application selection criteria automation, just to add to what Abhishek has mentioned, right, it is very, very important today for you to get complete visibility of where your student is, what is his intent. When I say intent, I think this is the biggest indicator for any admissions officer to target a particular student, right? To talk to pick up that phone and call a particular student. So how do you get to know the intent of a student? There are a lot of tools out there. We have in fact done a couple of dedicated sessions on chatbots and conversational tools. You could definitely go back and check out our sessions in the link provided. How can we integrate chatbot into a application flow, or how do you answer those questions? Because we have all experienced through our educational journey that application forms are extensive. There is so many things to be filled, so much of information, so many documents are needed. How do you answer those questions to a student who is lying on his bed on his mobile handset at 12:30 in the night when your counselors are not even available? He has a few questions. I don't have my marks yet. I do not know what my eligibility should be. Any question, how do you manage answering that? The answer to that is something that Abhishek will cover in the next session. But then it's important for you to understand that it should be an end-to-end integrated set of tools, very, very powerful tools that give these insights, collect these insights in the digital world, and shoot it back. So going back to conversations, right, FAQ automation systems, what would be your take on this, Abhishek? What is your advice of how to get integrated tools? Because chat tools today we know are the most difficult, right? And there are companies out there which don't even talk to you. They've just built a tool which you can use. So what would be your say on this, Abhishek?
Yeah, sure. So before I start, I would request the people in the audience that keep on bringing your questions pertaining to admission forms, SEO, increasing your applicant pool, or around linking of tracking to make sure these people finally fill the application. So keep on welcoming your questions in the Q&A. We'll try to answer those. Take around 20 minutes to answer all of them. So now coming to your question, Suprita, I would say that there are two ways of making sure that the student completes his form, right? So let's get some basics right? So end objective, the problem that we are solving is that a student or a prospect goes and completely fills the form, which means that he fills the form and he pays the application fees and he's in the system, right? So there are two things which are very important, Suprita. From a counselor's end or from an admission team member end, he or she should be able to access the form of a student for what we call as an assisted fill. So for example, if student is sitting in some remote location, his internet connection is not working properly. So, Suprita, the counselor, can pick up the phone, help the student on the call fill that form, right? So they need to have an ability to do that seamlessly, A. And B, for the student who's coming, Suprita, a lot of questions need to be answered before he fills the form. Those can be automated. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I'll quickly share my screen and show you that. So for example, I go to this particular B school website, very prominent B school website, right? I have so many menu items and things like that. And what I do is that I go to admission process and I click and open this particular page. So this is my application page for this particular B school, as a matter of fact, right? When I land on that particular page, and I'm just about to browse like a student that where is the form, how do I contact it, and how do we go about it? So this can welcome me, and this can guide me in my application form fill very, very quickly. So as I go to it, and by the way, bear in mind, Suprita, I have context. So as a student, I have context to it. I know that I have come to this particular page in search of this particular application form, and I want to fill that form. So here onwards, what happens is that this can guide me about the form and things like that. So for example, I want to know about the admission process, and I know about the process, the PG program, UG program. So I want to know about the PG program. So what it has done is that it has given me the information, Suprita, and that's the beauty. It has directly given me the link, okay, to what I call at that particular door, right? So I clicked on it. As soon as I click on it, I immediately go to my door and I fill that form and it comes. So what this bot has done is that it has made my transition from the search to the website, finally to the page where it guides me and takes me to that particular door where I fill the form. And a lot of questions this bot can answer me right away without the counselor doing. So for example, what is the fee structure looks like? Right, about UG or PG. So I want to know what PG. So it tells me the fee structure about that PGDM, for example, global. So it tells me the fee structure, and it gives me a lot of information, Suprita, before I go and start to fill the form. So that's from a student perspective, Suprita, where automation can really help them. And in the markets we have so many bots, so many chatbots in the market, and it's a ubiquitous technology now. But tying it all together, Suprita, is very, very critical and important. And what I mean by that is that if I am in the product here itself, and this particular guy, for example, has filled the form, right? I should be, as a counselor, able to, because his form is incomplete. So I click on this and I take this guy on a call and I'm helping this guy to fill that form, right? So from the counselor's end, how you could do assisted form fill at the same time, how you could enable the students to discover and know about you more is a combination of both assisted by and a bot that can contribute together.
So the key takeaway is number one, from the perspective of a Generation Z or a millennial, the first point is it has to have a complete ease of filling. It has to be digitally seamless with mobility built on top of it. Number three is that there has to be some assisted form filling capabilities. Could be a conversational tool, could be a FAQ section which helps the student or guides the student then and there as he is walking through that process. And last but not the least, an integrated end-to-end workflow for the counselor to give her complete visibility on what is the digital response of a student as she talks to the student to help her guide the student through taking that complete application and thereafter the admission process. Brilliant. I think this has been an excellent insight that you have given, and absolute clarity in terms of what should be the thought process of building a application process, right?
One of the things I missed it, and for the audience and the things, making sure, Suprita, very, very critical, very, very important that it is mobile friendly. Very important, right? It's seamless. It gives them a context. They can fill on a very basic smartphone with a low internet connection. That 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 ability needs to be there, and you need to provide that ability to the prospects or the parents, right? And it needs to be mobile friendly, it needs to be optimized for it, and it needs to work in a low internet connection. Very, very important.
Undoubtedly, I don't think there is any 10th grader today, in fact, who does not have a Android handset and is constantly browsing late in the night. I think that's one of the most critical factors that you have added on to that, Abhishek. So quickly moving on to the GDPI selection criterias and counseling. Now with the lockdown, I think we are all facing that challenge of, are students really going to cross borders, be it December, be it March next year? Are we still going to, in any case when the vaccine has not come out, right, are students really going to take that as a chance? I think for the Generation Z, definitely a very bold, I would say, generation that we have. But then the decision making process itself need not be physical, right? Although I might decide and then travel, but then before that process happens, wherein your GDPI kicks in for a B school or for a large university, they have a lot of norms. How can this be covered? We have a very, very important section that we have covered in the past as well, that talks about remote counseling, that talks about the power of video, integrated video, to help your counselors connect to that student, as in when maybe he's filling the application form, as in when you need to do your group discussion, be it a group discussion with 10 students, three faculty, department heads, you need to do a personal interview. So Abhishek, if you could just give us a thought process for you to build a product like this, right, for the marketing teams. What do you think has been the impact? I think most of our 200 odd our own customers have been using it for over 8 months now. What do you think has been the impact of this tool?
So, Suprita, and for the people in the audience, you really need to understand that there are three things that are happening, right, and which will happen in 2021. One, students who are outstation, Suprita, who used to come for counseling, might be a bit skeptical doing that. I'm not saying that they won't do that, but they'll be skeptical. So they will look for an alternative. A. Second is that, Suprita, that seeing is believing. So a lot of times, with good universities and B schools, would also want to select the right student. So there are two things, right? I just want to fill these application forms somehow. And second is that I want the right candidate because his quality is equally important to me.
Right.
Along with that, a very important aspect, Suprita, is also diversity. So gender diversity, or getting people from SC, ST, and OBC, other backgrounds and things like that, right? Until you don't talk to that parent and student and see them physically, it's very, very difficult. So for outstation students, for quality of the students, sometimes the parent just wants to talk to somebody. So still in India, we speak to a lot of admission teams. Finally the conversation ends with a admit by somebody talking to someone at the end of the day. Technology is as good as it can, but somebody needs to talk to somebody to have an admission. So for that, Suprita, it's very, very important that video and voice needs to be leveraged in a proper way. And I'll tell you, very quickly, what I fundamentally mean by that, right? So here, if you see that in the product right here itself, I can just click start a counseling session with few of the candidates, right? And I can bring a parent, I can bring a person to it. And what's happening is that without going to a Zoom or without going to a Zoom, what's happening is that these are my couple of team members, right? So they are already in the counseling session with me. Okay, so few of my colleagues. So think about it for all of you present here. Think about it, that cubicle, that glass cubicle where you'll be talking to that parent or a student, and in the physical premise, which you not be able to do today, and which now you can do with here. So my gracious colleagues, Chanda and Gajana are there, and think of them. They are maybe a parent and a child, and I'm the counselor, right? And I'm talking to them right here itself, Suprita, very, very clearly. And while I'm talking to them, I'm discussing with them, I'm chatting with them, I'm showcasing them different value proposition to it. And this is how you build that trust with a particular audience. And while the secure counseling room, I can bring a video, a talk to it. So for example, these two guys, right, are there. And let's take the same example, Suprita. So let's take a same example of, so just I'll pick the same example that I took. So any really good campus tour video which they have to it, and I want to give them that the real feel of that particular campus tour, which probably they want to leverage or they want to see. So while I'm discussing with them, so I can probably even bring in a YouTube video. So here I bring in a seamless YouTube video for my colleagues here who are a parent and a child, and then we all are consuming this video in a very seamless way, all three of us. So this is Suprita, what I want to talk about, that in a COVID year, this is the kind of immersion we are talking about. And while this happens, this interaction closes, you go back to it, and this gets completed, and you know that a video call has also happened with these particular people in the journey itself. So stitching it in this way, Suprita, to create this kind of immersive experience with your prospects and with your candidates is, I think, very very vital and very very critical. And here itself, you can ask, for example, my colleague Chanda to fill the form, and you can give the link to the form, and again take her to that particular window, probably door that I talked about. You can do the fulfillment there itself, right? So that's what Suprita, I mean by
Excellent.
that case, I would say.
So to add to that, we have experienced teams using this not only for having a quick counseling session, but also to conduct those group discussions, also to have a quick 15-minute chat with a parent whom the child is trying to influence, in order to take admission at this institute. And there is nothing better than a physical touch to, the process. And I think we as Indians have been strong rooted into this process. So it's very important for us to emotionally see the student, for the student to see the counselor or the admission officer, the faculty, build that level of trust, irrespective of the borders, irrespective of the challenges that are there outside, in order to make that decision of which college do I apply, how do I apply. So for going back to the mindset or the thought process of our prospective potential student, he is browsing over 10 windows. He is browsing all the possible colleges out there on his mobile handset day in and day out. He has decision making power. He has access to net banking, credit card, debit card. He will take that call what time at 12:30 in the night he wants to pick. He's browsing, he wants to do his research, he'll make that payment. And this is how the student does his applications today, right? Now, as an institute, if you do not have online beautifully integrated, seamless, well designed, automated process for this, then you have already lost the battle before it started. So it's very very critical for you to be there along with your Generation Z in the digital world. Make sure you have a complete end-to-end integrated process to it, a workflow which is very very easy, the way it is to order food online today, the way it is to order your shopping, any shopping online today. So are you making the same for your Generation Z? That's a question that team should ask themselves. If not, then yes, there's a dire need for you to get started with that process, right? Now, one bit which is the most important is the nurturing bit in this process, where communication plays a very critical role. Now, Abhishek, we have discussed this several times over, wherein we have built multiple, solved for multiple problems, understanding the intent of the student basis of which location he is from, which university he has studied, what's his graduation level, what is his education level, so on and so forth, right? You take up all of these 30-40 different factors of a half-filled form and then give it to the counselor. Now, what does a marketing team that's very parallel, which functions in a very different way, right? What does they do? They build these email IDs. How can they segregate their communication to a student? How do they pick which student do I send which emailer to? How do they schedule this? How do they automate it so that the student wakes at 5 o'clock in the morning and reads those emails or messages or WhatsApp? How can this be completely automated and integrated into the process, Abhishek?
Yeah, so glad you asked the question. So from discovery to the door they have reached, right? So now they need to enter the door and need to exit the door. And the communication should be in such a way, Suprita, that's helping them navigate from the entry door to the exit door, right, at every step. So think about it like they have entered the house, they need to now have an exit door. An exit door is basically they have taken admissions, right? So you really need to understand that and need to create and build that workflow. So couple of things, Suprita, here I would like to talk about. One is, how do you slice and dice the student properly? For example, if the student has X number of marks in 10th and 12th, right? He has Y number of marks in JE or CAT or maybe need, and then he comes from XYZ background, I want to automatically filter and generate a set of students who are now in the eligibility criteria for my particular university. So that's one element to it. Second element to it, that Sukrita, is that now how do I keep on engaging them and keep on nurturing them? So again, let me very quickly give you an example what I mean by that, right? So firstly, now this guy is there in the system, and I would want to set up a criteria of selection, right? So here in the system, you can put up a criteria that, hey, if the 10th marks are more than this, then the weightage is fine, or 5 or 6. Like, what about 12th standard? So if the 12th standard marks are like this, we can add a category and I can add a threshold value. So in this case, what you can do is that you can keep on choosing things like group discussion, personal interview, and you can keep on adding what I call criteria. So for example, threshold or group discussions is probably on a scale of 1 to 10 is 7, right? And the weighted is around 20%. So now this can get built in the system, Suprita, and this can run across all those prospects to generate what we call as a merit list or those criteria without admission team doing it manually. So that's one way of looking at it, Suprita. The another way, Suprita, of looking at it is that how do we make sure this process is automated, right? So in this case, you see that I want to build a workflow, and I build a workflow like if the course belongs to PhD marketing and PGTM marketing, and if the status of the student, Suprita, is application started. So bear in mind, Suprita, they have entered the door, but they have not exited the door, right? So I need to nurture him. Then I build a nurturing sequence that I would want to send him an email after 1 day, 5 day, 8 day, 21st day, until I guide him to the journey that this guy completely fills the form. So it's like various actions are there that one SMS should go for an invite, for a link, for a reminder. And it's very important, Suprita, that this should not be left, right, for a manual human being to do that. It should be in autopilot mode, because it's navigation based on this particular journey. He's entered your door and you need to help them to exit the door. And it may be the case, Suprita, that it might not take admission, and that's okay, but they should receive the communication at the right time. So two things, Suprita, I would say. One is, how do you build this meaningful journey based and very personalized communication for the prospect? So here you need to understand, Suprita, it's a very personalized communication that's going to the student in the form of email or in the form of an SMS. It's a very personalized communication that goes to that particular prospect in real time. So this, along with a selection criteria, if they both work in unison, Suprita, I think the marketing team and the counseling team will be very happy.
Brilliant. So what we are stating is to have particular automation built into your communication, a trigger based automation, wherein if the student has started the form and it has been 8 days wherein he has not taken the second step, then probably you could nudge him with an SMS or an email or a WhatsApp perhaps, and tell him, hey, you're just one click away from submitting your form. Why don't you do it today? The last date for it arrives in a couple of days. It's very, very important to keep reminding him that he's supposed to fill this form, because many a times, even for us at Extra Edge, many a times we get lost in the assumption that he is just not wanting to do it, but it could also be that he's just too occupied. He's probably just preparing for his NEET. He's just probably engaged in a wedding at his home and he has forgotten about it. So it's important for you to keep reminding him to come back to you to fill that particular form, and this automation is where plays a very, very critical role in ensuring your number of applicants, number of leads, convert into a maximum number of applicants for you and are nurtured in a particular way. Very, very critical point to note at this stage is personalization. Many a times it's one generic email, copy paste content and send to everybody in the system, right? Advise not to do this, folks. It's important that you personalize each and every email, and a trigger based automation system allows you to do that. It allows you to build very, very easily in 10 minutes 25-30 different templates, beautiful templates with videos, etc., which can be customized to say, hey, the student opened this email, then I send him an application form link via WhatsApp. Hey, the student visited this page website for the third time and he's inquiring for the third time, then I probably send him a different email, or I probably escalate this particular inquiry or share the student's details with a different senior counselor who can thereafter have that session with the student and probably guide him more deeply to taking that admission. Very, very exciting. I think, Abhishek, I think these are some very, very critical viewpoints for any team today to adopt very quickly and, turn themselves into a winning a process, a winning application and admission process this year. Quickly to add to what you said, what you've mentioned about the automation process, right? We discussed about a single sign-on widget. We discussed about leveraging those forms to build the domain authority. We discussed about mobile friendly auto save application forms, which have to be online, which have to be digital. All of these integrated back to one system. How important is integration here? Because I have every day had conversations where people come and say, hey, I use 10 different tools and I have 10 different people on 10 different tools. I mean, what a chaotic disaster can that be for any institute? And how important is it? What role does an integration play amongst all this? Is it also easy to do integrations between different tools? A marketing tool, because a marketing team would always want their own tool, whereas an admission team is going to say, I want my own tool. Application form, the university says, should be on my in-house ERP. Now, how does this all sum up for a counselor? How does she get visibility into all this?
But I have three words to answer your question. Who has the time? Who has the time? In a COVID year, who has the time? Should that counselor and admission team member go after and talk to the student, or should she spend her time in five different products? So she's chatting, she's on Zoom, she's on a CRM, she's depending on the marketing team to send those admit emailers or GDPI dates. So who has the time? I think nobody has the time, Suprita. I think a lot of people who have joined in, and I say on behalf of all of you, you all have lost time this year. Because of COVID, we have all have lost time. And this time and all in one is very, very critical, Suprita, because the attention and focus will be on talking to the students and convincing him to, sign up. That's where the enormous effort should go to. And in this case, all these conversations of solving these different problems of how do I make sure he moves from a search to a door and gets into the form filling process? How do I provide him automation and nurture him and handhold him, Suprita, to move from an application start to completion? How do I build a trust using video and voice? How do we communicate automatically, right? In this case, and most important, Suprita, I would also say that the measurement of it, it's very, very critical here. That how do you measure that? And just to give you a very, Suprita, quick sense of it, right? Analytics plays very, very critical importance here. So in this case, that how many forms have been filled? If they have been filled, I would quickly want to understand that who are these students who have filled those forms. So I quickly go and check those students, who they are not, and things like that. I slice and dice the data in source, date, and things like that. So this whole analysis and aspect of understanding the whole workflow will become very, very critical this year for people, because they should not be spending time in generating and creating these analytics and dashboards and reports. They should spending more time in understanding the behavior, and what they need to have is a repository of these reports and analytics on which they can click on the performance, not only of the applicants, but also of the counseling team. So we can see that what Deepak has done, what Deepak has not done. I can click, go into the details and stuff like that. So measurement, Suprita, I would add on to it, becomes very, very important and key element tying it all together. So who has the time, Suprita, this year? People don't have the time.
Rightly said, Abhishek. I think it is very, very important to optimize. This year would be all about optimizing. The institute that has been able to do that is going to emerge as one of the winners of this entire, digital era which we currently live in. Very interesting factor. So for those of you folks have joined in between, we initially discussed for the first 15 minutes about if you're an institute with 5,000 odd application fills, 1 lakh application fills, it's very, very important that you retain that domain authority, retain that traffic to your own website rather than sending that traffic to a partner website who does your application process, right? It's very important that you retain that. Do check out, we will definitely share a recording of this particular session so that you can run through that section. Why we have answered all of those questions at the starting of this of this episode. Highly recommend, if you're an institute that has anything about 2,500 applicants coming in a year, it's very, very important and critical for you to retain that traffic to your own SEO, attribute it to your own organic, and ensure your domain authority is very, very high in its ranking. So quickly, Abhishek, you spoke about a few things, but however, I think having a set of integrated approach in these processes is still simpler, right? But then payment is one bit which most institutes keep a different process, a different accounting team, and things like that. How do you think this can be solved for a student or for a counselor? Because I think many universities that take international admissions, particularly, there's a lot of international cards that are blocked. There are a lot of payments gateways that don't accept a few countries. Payments tend to fail a lot when it comes to student. The student may not even have enough money in his bank. So how can a fees collection module or a fees payment can be eased for a counselor in this digital world?
Absolutely, Suprita. So, Suprita, this is the year of, I would call it fee 2.0. So, fee 2.0 would look very differently. Fee 1.0 look like two installment, 5 lakh rupees, two and a half, you fill, right? But fee 2.0 would not look like. Fee 2.0 would look like your car installment or your credit card installment, right, in that case. So now the question is that, the thing about payment, and payment is a very important milestone for application form for a team, right? So
Absolutely.
what the teams will need, Suprita, is a way to do micropayments. Micropayments in short spurts. And I'll give you an example. So I work for a university, and Suprita is going to take admission for engineering or maybe an MBA. But Suprita is ready to confirm a book admission by paying 10,000 rupees, right? The fees is around 5 lakh, but Suprita is ready to give 10,000 rupees and block that admission. So how can the counselor Suprita do that now? And that's very interesting. So quickly, I'll, again, seeing is believing. I'll show you. So here in the system itself, what the people can do is that they can do what we call as a micropayment. And what they can do is they can probably quickly go to that particular place, and from here itself, they can initiate a micropayment. So, both email and ID and phone number required. So I initiate a micropayment. So when I initiate a micropayment, Suprita, right, I say that link should go to their father's email ID, mother's email ID. I select my course. So maybe it's whatever animation. I put an amount. So in this case, 10,000, and I select expiry link for the payment. So maybe 3 days, because that's a deadline on Monday. So Sunday, right? And I send it across to them. So this is, Suprita, what will happen. And then the counselor, when the fee gets paid, she will be able to understand that Mandar Joshi has moved from, callback to payment, partially payment paid automatically. And there's a link between these two worlds. So, the system, Suprita, which used to be in a previous world restricted to the application form side, needs to be in the vicinity of a counselor and the admission team, where they could do these micropayments, collect those things, and book the admission, because students might not be able to commit a huge amount of money immediately. And this can become a competitive advantage for the teams to do that.
Absolutely brilliant. So as we would want to still emphasize that the Generation Z, the most connected, sophisticated, and educated generation ever. So it's important for universities, institutions to equip your admission and marketing teams, to equip your admission officers with equally sophisticated technology, so that they're able to win the hearts of these students. So Nikhil, quickly to the poll. I think before we move to the Q&A section, please do drop in your questions. I can see a couple of questions already put in. Drop in your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and definitely we would love to take these questions and answer them. To give you a glimpse, we at Extra Edge strongly believe that learning and knowledge sharing is a constant process, and rethink is an effort that we want to put in to give back to the admissions and marketing community in India and the globe, wherein we create a playbook for you, for a newly appointed counselor or an admissions head or a marketing head, for them to run through and understand what are the tools out there, what are the processes out there, what is the thought process out there, what should be the strategy that you should build around your marketing campaigns. Recommend you to drop in in and see all our last episodes. Very informative, and we look forward to a lot more questions. Feel free to drop a email to us any point if you have specific topic that you would want us to cover, or any specific questions. We would be very happy to sit on a 20-30 minutes call with you, wherein we can help you answer or navigate those challenges day in and day out. So we at Extra Edge are a innovation-driven marketing and admissions automation platform. We help institutes day in and day out, counselors, marketing heads, owners, chairmen to resolve their processes, resolve for their problems or challenges, and build a winning admission process, a winning admission tool, a winning admission platform for their counselors and their teams.
Brother, so all the people who have attended there, right, all those guys, I will highly recommend that, Nikhil will be sharing this video link with you. I think, we are not saying something which is very special. I think that's very commonsensical most of the times, but these get missed, and you know what I'm talking about. So, if people can look at this video, watch this video, your admission team members and things, they might get few things out of it, and so they will be able to optimize the way they work. And the whole idea at the end of the day is to help students get to the right career options. This is what we are in the business of helping these students achieve their academic goals at the end of the day. And so are we as Extra Edge, and so are you. So how does this particular year marked by COVID, how technology can help you do that in different ways, using video, chat, automation, sequences and stuff like that, becomes very, very critical. So highly recommend you to share this video to your people, and they can look at it and get their own wisdom or nuggets which they want to. Also, what we have done is that we have launched a poll. We would love to hear from you. What do you think about this session format, question and answer? So we will start to take the questions very quickly. So drop in any Q&A questions you have pertaining to application, SEO, your optimization, or driving this communication towards making sure the students fill the form and fill the form easily, swiftly, smoothly. So please take the poll and keep the questions coming.
All right, so I think we have just one question, and this looks to be a very, very interesting question, Abhishek. I would definitely want to, answer this. Would definitely love to hear your thoughts as well. So, Deep Jyoti has asked, how does one ensure that it is not overdone? That is, a student does not get the feel that the institute or college is desperate.
Right. So, Devyoti, thanks for the question. And I'll tell you that students hate when it's overdone, but I'll tell you why it's overdone. It's not overdone with the intention of getting overdone. It's overdone with the approach of one size fits all. So an admission team member will sit, and somebody will tell him that usko email SMS bhej do, like send them email and SMS. Right? He will sit on a day when he thinks is the right day and will send it all to them. So what happens is that there is no personalization. There is no, I would say, intent-driven, as Subrata was saying, intent-driven communication. So imagine you are sending an email to a guy who has already filled your application form, an email saying that last day to fill your application form, please fill. So it's not meant for me. And the vice versa on the other end of the spectrum. A student who has said to you, to the counselors, that I don't want to take admission in your institute. I'm not interested. And you are still sending him an email, right? Please fill my application form. So this is what I call tone deaf communication. It's tone deaf. So you really need to understand that there is a journey. You have discovery from search engines, from Google. They come to a door, they fill the form, and it's very, very important for you to make sure that from the discovery to the door, you nurture them very, very well. Once they get into the door, it has to be very personalized. It has to be layered. You really need to understand why the student is not moving ahead in their application forms. It might be the case that they don't have good internet connection. It's nothing to do with intent. Then a counselor can jump in and help them fill the form on their behalf. So in that case, I would say, sir, that uh, a marketing automation or journey based or intent based communication becomes very, very critical, very, very handy. And to give you a very quick example, maybe a student has filled the form but not paying the fees because his mother is not convinced. All you need to do is take them on a call. Like I have taken few of my colleagues on a call here, and put them on call, talk to them, look them face to face here, talk to them, build that confidence that, hey, I mean, this can work out. we are COVID protected, we have taken precautions, classes will start online, our placements are going to be 100% probably, please start, right? So I think that becomes very, very critical and very, very important when you fine tune your communication based on the journey of the student and not one size fits all.
Absolutely. So, Dibjyoti, I have a different perspective to you. My question would be, for me, it's always about putting myself in, the prospect's shoes at the end of the day. So, when can a sales call become very annoying for you? When a telecaller keeps calling you and saying, ma'am, I want you to buy my product. Ma'am, I want you to take my credit card. So, I think that's what I said, right? Your Generation Z is the most sophisticated, the most connected, and the most educated today. So no, a telecalling approach is not going to work. If you have that process, I would say, throw it out of the window. If you're an institution which is largely driven by quantity, I think that's also something that you should narrow down to. A very, very interesting question that you've asked. How do you tackle this now? The way to look at it is getting good technology which tells you all about the student's digital journey. What has he done even before you connected to him? So imagine a call where you call the student and say, hey, by the way, Abhishek, I saw that you have come onto our website last night and you tried to fill the form. I know that you're from Kolkata, and I know for a fact that you've done your 12th standard from this particular university. So you start the conversation like this, rather than saying, hi, who am I speaking to? Would you want to take admission at so and so university? So these are two different conversations, right? So the answer to your question is, you have to be consultative, you have to be technology driven, you have to be 2 steps ahead of your student in order to ensure that you're not desperate, to ensure that you're there to guide him, you're there to consult for him, you're there to answer his questions, to help him complete that process. A quick Abhishek, I would want you to add is, I think we have a very, very beautiful technology for this built as well, wherein it can also look at, so even if you're a quantity driven institution, it could look at lakhs of students and tell you who is that one student who's most important for you. Yes, Abhishek, over to you.
Absolutely, Subrita. So, Subrita, by the way, it's only possible when you have an integrated system. So, any kind of intelligence works when you have consolidation first. So, you need to have consolidation because intelligence works on data and contextual data. So, the calling, video, inbound, outbound, email, SMS, funnels, leads coming in, publishers, all need to be integrated in a single platform. Then only it's possible. So, what happens in this case, ladies and gentlemen, is that Mandar, again, let's take the case of our Mandar, right? So Mandar is interested. I also had a video call with him. I can know that this was a video call with Mandar. It ended. This was a discussion duration of 23 minutes and stuff like that. But I have also something called as score. And this is not a lead score. It's a predictive score. What it tells me that based on my last year's success and failure of Mandar as a prospect, what are the chances that Mandar's candidacy is going up and down? So it's basically using things like machine learning and things, telling that, hey, Mandar's chances of joining my colleges were low, but something interesting happened on October 11th and it went up. So it takes into account things like outbound call, email, SMS, comments of the counselor, the tone of the calling or the tone of email, SMS, which publisher he's coming from, and it tells the counselor, guides them that what's the prediction probability using machine learning that Mandar will take admission or not, and also tells them what should be done next. So you need to send him an SMS today. So you can set this particular activity and then you can complete it. So Suprita, two things. One is using lot of data of past years institutes, admits and non-admits, and learning from that how does a good applicant and a bad applicant looks like, right? And taking course corrective measures based on that. So I love this graph. What this graph tells me that over a period of time, how this admission is going ahead. Is it going ahead or not? So it's beautiful. It started with high, but it's going to low, low, low. Something must be happening, some leading and lagging indicators. And the counselor should be able to, our admission team should be able to leverage that, the cutting edge understanding to take more focus on people who are who are more attuned to take admission rather than some people who may or may not take admission. So optimize time, focus on the right people to open the door, Suprita, so as to call it. Everybody will not open the door, neither they should. The right people should open the door and we guide them through that journey.
Brilliant. So, Nikhil,
Yeah.
any other
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, we have one. So this question is from Mukesh sir. During the peak hours, how the video chat would be supported? Yeah.
Uh, yes, so Prita, I'll take that question. So Mukesh, again, good question. Uh, it's a challenge. Let me first say that during peak hours, if you are talking to 30, 40, 50 people on video, right? So the biggest challenge is not the product challenge or the technology challenge. The biggest challenge will be the bandwidth challenge. So if you are in a campus and everybody is doing video call, it consumes a lot of bandwidth. So for the first thing has nothing to do with technology. Is to do with your internet connection and bandwidth. So that needs to be proper there, right? One. Second is that for example, our platform, video chat platform, is very highly scalable. It can support multiple parallel video conversations, over a period of time concurrently. So the system is, kind of robust enough to scale itself, provided the internet bandwidth is proper, because video needs a lot of internet bandwidth. And third, I would say that this video counseling should be seen like a bite-sized counseling, not an elongated kind of chat and discussion. So it should be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, where you're answering more focused questions of the parent or the student. And most of these things are already being answered by a chatbot or a website and things like that. And then you're helping him, navigating him to probably fill the application form and things like that. So goal should be very focused on that video, what you're going to talk about. So I think these will be my three things that I would like to mention.
All right. So just to summarize, I think you've been an excellent audience. I would really want to thank each one of you who have taken this hour out to be with us today. So we at Extra Edge have been constantly innovating, constantly building and solving for the challenges out there of admissions and marketing teams, helping you grow, helping you progress and win every day, understanding your Generation Z. So today we have potentially covered the key takeaways. I would just want to summarize before we close, Abhishek. Would just definitely want you to add on to that. It's very, very important for you to understand your most connected, sophisticated, and well educated Generation Z and build your entire process around that. The world has gone digital. That's a fact. You need to have your processes go digital rapidly to ensure that you're at par. Your counselors should be technologically capable. They should have all the tools, integrated tools at their behest to be able to do that consultative or guiding for the student. And a few key points to remember: there should be an absolute ease of filling. The forms have to be online application forms. If in case you have a huge number of applicants, make sure you leverage the domain authority. The domain authority should remain with you. How do you do that? Build customized single sign-on widgets which can help you navigate this process. Build mobile friendly auto save forms. Automate your communication seamlessly with the help of a good rule engine with SMS, email, and WhatsApp, timely based on the responses of the students. Track their activities. Give them all the assistance for them to fill. Virtual assistant, not human driven. Give them the FAQ automation, usage of conversational chatbots, making this a more integrated end-to-end platform by leveraging integrated video counseling, predictive analytics, and advanced tools out there is most critical for today's higher optimized conversions.
So, Subrata, you have given the longer version. I'll give a shorter version. Three things, guys, for all of you, right? Help the students this year, and only technology can help you. That I can tell you right away. One. Second is that nobody has time this year, so don't you don't have time, right? So technology should help you that, and paper and forms won't work this year. So say no to paper and forms, right? Very very important, and and make sure that you help you optimize your time that you have. Probably you'll be working from home, and paper and forms won't work this year. That's for sure, at least for this year.
Brilliant. So a quick thank you to each and everybody who has joined us today. We would love to keep creating more content like this. We will shortly announce our next episode, which is going to be airing next month. And definitely advise all of you to register and attend that one. You could always check out our past episodes of Rethink Knowledge and Growth series. Nikhil has quickly posted it out there. Nikhil, if you can also share your contact email. So if any of you want to sign up for a 20-minute discussion with us, us, wherein we'll walk you through, help you, guide you through, how you could set up a world-class application process. Would be very happy to do that. Explore. Yes, Abhishek.
Sorry to interrupt you. So, guys, we always love to hear from you. So, I would request that before you log off, please complete the poll, because the poll gives us a very clear indication of how it did, and it also motivates us to keep on doing this and bringing this knowledge to you. So just wanted to make sure that few of you have not completed the poll. So highly would recommend that before you log off, do complete the poll. Yeah, Sukita, sorry, go ahead.
Excellent. So I think we have summed that up. Thank you for being a great audience, and very good evening to all of you. Thank you, Abhishek, for taking the time out